Welcome to Secret Story. It was Saturday night and Charles was away on business and would be until Monday. And the kids were visiting their grandparents on their farm. This was her second day all to herself, so Barbara figured, what the hell, she was going out for a night on the town. She had been eating healthy and exercising regularly and was feeling particularly confident. She knew Charles wouldn't have an issue with her having a little fun. There was a new club called Sweet Water to check out. She took extra care bathing, put on her favorite sundress and headed out for a night of country and western dancing. Something Charles would never do with her. Barbara got there quite early, so decided to start with a drink to loosen her inhibitions. Because she'd seen it in a TV show, she ordered a Jack and Coke, grabbed a stool and sat down to drink it. Not much of a drinker, by the time it was about half finished, Barbara began to feel its effects, enjoying that slight buzz. She could really feel the club's music pulsing around her. She quickly finished the rest of her drink and headed out to the dance floor to start her fun night. Barbara slipped into a group of people line dancing and let her body start to move in rhythm with the music, something she'd so rarely done since high school. It surprised her to remember how much fun dancing could be. She'd joined in with a large group of men and women, but it didn't take long for Barbara to pair off with one of the men. It brought a new level of enjoyment as she and her partner took subtle cues from each other, changing their styles so that they started to play off each other. Each new partner she switched to brought a different style, and Barbara was enjoying not only the merging of different styles but also enjoyed learning new dance moves. After a solid 45 minutes on the dance floor, Barbara was getting a little tired and needed a break. She slipped off the dance floor, ordered another Jack and Coke and sat down to recuperate. Barbara had almost finished her second drink and had a nice buzz going. She was getting up to head back out on the dance floor when one of the men she'd been dancing with walked up to her. "Can I buy you another drink?" he asked. Barbara chuckled internally for a moment. She'd seen this maneuver on TV and the movies all the time but had never experienced it personally. "Sure. Thanks," she finally replied. "Great. I'm Reese. You've got some nice moves, lady," he said. Reese was good-looking. Rugged physique, toned muscles, about just over 6 feet tall, black wavy hair and cobalt blue eyes. He looked to be a couple of years older than Barbara's 33. "I'm Barbara and thanks." "You're not bad yourself," Barbara replied, connecting Reese with the moments she'd shared with him on the dance floor. They enjoyed friendly banter while they drank. The third drink had come a little quicker than Barbara had planned, and so the intensity of the euphoria she started to experience wasn't anticipated. She wanted to get back out and dance some more. Thankfully, Reese must have been thinking the same thing. "How about we get back out on the floor? We can try out some new moves," he said. "Let's go," sang out Barbara excitedly, hand on the small of her back to guide her. They headed back to the dance floor. In his arms, Barbara let the music take them again. She was having a great time and he appeared to be also. Although it hadn't seemed it, before long another hour had passed and Barbara needed a break again. She let Reese know and they went to find a table. "Buy you another drink, Barbara?" "Thanks," she replied, "but I'll just have water." Reese flagged down a cute little waitress in a short skirt and a tube top and ordered water and another drink for himself. "I haven't had this much fun in years," Barbara exclaimed excitedly once the drinks had been ordered. "You were great out there. My husband has 2 left feet, so I'm not used to guys being able to dance so well." "Thanks," replied Reese. "I like to get out every now and then. It's the best place to meet fun, energetic and beautiful women like you." "Are you trying to pick me up?" Barbara asked coyly. "If you are, it's working," she joked. "Good," he chuckled and winked. While talking they covered the usual getting-to-know-you topics like background, interests, and dreams. They joked and laughed and gradually started interjecting innuendo. "How would you like to get out of here?" Reese suddenly asked. Barbara felt a sudden jolt of adrenaline cut through her foggy alcohol-induced buzz. "What did you have in mind?" "How about my place?" he asked cautiously. "I don't live far." Barbara took a moment to weigh the ramifications. Since meeting Reese she'd understood that this was a possibility, but didn't think it was a serious one. Now, suddenly, reality presented itself to her. Reese must have mistaken her pause for apprehension. "I promise, I'll treat you with all of the respect and attention that a woman like you deserves," he added, making up her mind. Barbara replied, "Sounds good." Outside, Reese hailed a cab, gave the driver his address and settled back in the seat next to Barbara. He put an arm around her shoulder and drew her close. Barbara leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. Even after all of that dancing, he smelled good and felt even better. She tilted her head up to look at him and Reese smiled as he looked back. Barbara was so caught up in the attention she was receiving from Reese that it came as a surprise to her when they arrived at his home. Reese paid the driver and he led Barbara to the front door. "Are you still okay with this?" Reese asked as he paused to unlock the front door. "Open the door," Barbara replied and moved close to kiss him again. Reese's house was very nice and clean. His furnishings showed that he not only had good taste but had some money as well. "Make yourself comfortable, while I get us something to drink," Reese said. "Water?" Though she could still feel the buzz from the earlier alcohol, the effects had definitely subsided, so she felt she could handle a little bit more. "I'll have a glass of white wine if you have any," she said. "Excellent," he said. As she watched him go into the kitchen, she sat on the couch. She heard him rummage through his drawers, pop the cork on the wine and pour. He returned a short while later and offered Barbara a glass. "To an exciting evening," he said. "To an exciting evening," she returned, and they touched glasses before drinking. They placed their glasses on the table and faced each other. Reese reached out and caressed Barbara's face. "You really are very beautiful," he said. Barbara blushed. She was out of practice responding to compliments from any man other than her husband. And those had gotten few and far between. "Thank you," she managed to get out. Reese pulled her close again and they picked up where they'd left off in the cab. "I'll be right back," Reese said. He headed off down the hallway. Barbara sipped at her wine and tried to steady her nerves as she listened to the rustling coming from down the hall. When Reese returned, he walked in front of her and extended his hand to help Barbara off the couch. Barbara allowed him to help her up and he led her back to his bedroom, guiding her to enter before him. The room was beautifully laid out to set up the mood. Candles lit the room from strategic locations, low, elevator music played in the background and a king-size bed sat against the middle of the far wall. "Nice touch," Barbara observed. "Thank you. I told you I intend to treat you right." Reese led Barbara over to the bed. She turned to face him. Once unzipped, Reese's levis joined her dress on the floor. In reality, it hadn't been long since they'd started, but Reese knew what he was doing and she trusted him completely to hit all the right points. That trust paid off. Night wasn't over yet. While Barbara lost track of time, this man held the key to her pleasure and she had no intention of restricting him in any way. She didn't want it to end. Eventually, they stopped, though that was mind-blowing. "You are as incredible as you are beautiful," Reese replied. They remained joined for several more minutes. "You are welcome to stay tonight," Reese said. "I have to," she replied with a wink. "My car is still back at Sweetwater." They got out of the shower and headed to bed. The next morning, Barbara woke before Reese and went into the kitchen and made coffee. She checked her phone and saw that Charles had sent her several text messages inquiring as to where she was, though his last had concluded that she had probably just gone to bed. Charles was in for the story of his life and she was just about to text him when Reese came behind her. "Did you sleep well?" he asked sleepily. "How could I not after that incredible experience?" she replied. Reese smiled. "Yes, that was quite incredible, wasn't it?" Barbara paused and thought about it for a couple of minutes. Then she took a quick glance back at her phone, put it on the kitchen counter and followed Reese back to the bedroom. As they walked in, Barbara did something that she'd never done with Charles. By the time it was over, round 2 had been just as fulfilling as round 1. Barbara lay on the bed, spent, breathing hard. A girl could get used to this, she thought.